Greetings, first of the month. I hope that it's a happy and healthy month for everybody. And of course, to my special guest, Efi Xanthou, who is always here on the first Wednesday of the month. We've missed a few because of COVID.
Corona.
Anyway, we're hopefully back on track, and she's going to be one of my very few guests for the month of July. So I'm very happy to have her. Of course, I'm happy to have you all too. Please do be part of the conversation and let us know what your thoughts are. If you have any questions for Efi, she's always very happy to answer them honestly and directly, which is why she's on this program. It's unreserved. And we've just heard the pianist Stephen Ho with Melody in E. A very warm welcome if you've just joined into Rick Classic 88.2. We are live, and we are also streaming on cybc.com.cy, live on Facebook on my page, Saskia Constantino, and of course that gives you the opportunity to be part of the conversation that I'm having with my very special guest, Efi Xanthou. Efi, thank you so much for being here. It's a good start to the month.
As always, it's a great pleasure. And yes, first of the month, lovely weather we're having, lots of sun, yes. Lots of heat.
Well, when it's raining, we complain, and when it's sunny, it's too hot.
Oh no, I'm not complaining. I love the sun. I love the rain. I love the sun. I don't mind it, as long as it doesn't go haywire. And then you got like one day you're dressed up like an Eskimo, and then the next day you're looking for your bathing suit.
It's windy in the evening, so
it is.
It's quite windy.
I think that it's lovely though, because it means that we can cool down our houses. I mean, as long as we don't have enough high-rise buildings that are going to be blocking the air.
Well,
which I hope is going to be one of the issues we're going to be discussing today.
We are, but I wanted to begin with the people living in Ayu, Constantino and Eleni in the areas of Valley, and they've made really a Herculean effort to address, have their problems addressed about the air pollution. I think that really no progress has been made, and it's been reported that the state actually has no plans to move these various industrial units.
Well, it's a fascinating case, and let me just lay it out for people that may not be familiar with it.
Please, who are hearing for the first time.
It's the usual problem that you have with all the cities that are growing. You have your industrial zones usually on the outer layers of a city, and then the city grows and it engulfs the industrial layers. And normally, if you actually had town planning, this wouldn't have happened. There would be at least enough space so that you don't have houses that are actually looking into an industrial area, into a heavy industrial zone, because that's what we're talking about.
Yes.
Unfortunately, in the area of Dali and of Yeri, the industrial zone is being engulfed. Now, the biggest problem, obviously, in that area is not just the two asphalt industries that we have in those industrial areas. They're adjacent, but I have to mention both municipalities because both municipalities are affected.
Yes.
We also have a heavy industrial area in Tseri, which is on the other side of the highway, not remotely close to the houses, but due to the western winds that always blow from west to east in the evenings and at nighttime, and the fact that the asphalt industries seem to be working overtime during nighttime, we have heavy fumes coming over towards the same area. So these people built in this newly highly expensive and not developed area because town planning allowed them to, and then they found themselves engulfed by an industrial area, fumes from Tseri coming over to their areas. And during the morning hours,
that far. You say Tseri, but I mean we've got
if you look
winds
at it
coming and dust coming from the Sahara. So
yes, you're right. But if there was, if they weren't exactly in the wind path, it would have been dispersed a bit easier or a bit quicker.
Yes.
Right now, we are talking about a situation where people are exiting their houses and they can't breathe and they get nauseous. And it's even more distressful for the kids in the 3rd elementary school of Dali, which is located in this district of St. Eleni and Constantino area in Dali. And actually, there is already a court case developing, because we've had deaths of people, of young children in the area, from cancers that are environmentally caused. I mean, I'm not a doctor, so I can't say for sure, but the parents feel that it was, it really negatively impacted the health of their children. So there's a court case happening right now. Now, why do I say that this is a strange situation? Like I said, these areas were newly developed, they were quite expensive, and we've got a lot of bigwigs living in the area.
Yes.
I'm talking about ministers, I'm talking about ex-governor of the central bank, ex-ministers, general directors of ministries. These are high-level people that are immediately affected themselves.
Yes.
And we've actually seen this government saying that we really want to get rid of these things, and they're actively trying to reach a compromise with the company owners, so they will actually remove their industries from the area, and then we will be compensated for it, because they do realize that it is a town planning situation as well. They did issue, the government, the various departments did allow these industries to operate, and they did allow town planning to continue development into that area.
Can we go back to that?
Sure.
How did that happen?
Because nobody's really looking at the maps. Every 5 years we have the redistribution of land use through the revisiting of the local plans, if I can call them like that. Topico schedio, as most people have realized and have been referring to them. And every 5 years you get lobbies from people that are trying to get their agricultural land or farming zoned land to be included in the residential land. It's obvious that the reason is remuneration. If you're selling your plot as a building plot, as an area where you can actually make a house or you can make an apartment block building, it's a lot more money to be had if you're selling it, rather than if it's just an agricultural piece or a farming piece, or well, I wouldn't say industrial piece, because industrial pieces are rare as well and quite expensive.
Yes.
But it seems that most people want to build either for their family, or they want to sell the property so that they can get money for their family. So there's a lot of push towards development without having good town planning, without actually looking forward to what you would like to see Nicosia or Limassol or Paphos or Larnaca to look like in 50 years' time, without looking at the environmental factors that need to be safeguarded. Like, for instance, they still haven't finished with the plan about what the strategy should be about high-rise buildings. I'm talking about all high-rise buildings, whether they're on a coastal town or whether they're in central Nicosia. There should be a strategy that has down the basic framework that you need to have in place to be able to facilitate a high-rise building. We have no strategy for that. We have no strategy on how to utilize the beaches. So when you say there's no strategy, you mean there's no town plan strategy.
There's no town planning for that at all. Anywhere.
Let me put it to you like this: you have plans for all over the island. You've got various maps that have been developed at different times, and usually they're created through the lobbying of people that own the land, that own the property.
Yes.
Instead of actually looking at it strategically from an eagle side point of view and saying, okay, this is a good utilization of this piece of property. This is where I'm going to have schools in the next 30 years. This is where I'm going to have my big highways, because the more people, and it's obvious that the population is growing, the more people I have, I need to have roadworks. I need to have ways for them to come through. You've got supposed plans, for instance, for the creation of a tram or a train that is going to be connecting cities between them, or a tram within intercity communications, and nobody is actually planning for that, on how that is going to be working, when they're talking about what utilization you're going to have of the land left and right of those tracks. You can't have a train running and you're allowing building of big mansions right next to where the tram is, where the train is supposed to be going through.
And this isn't actually only, there was a recent incident in Paya where there's really quite a land dispute. It landed up causing trees to be cut down and the rest of it. So this is something...
that's even more micromanagement. There was a huge issue at some point when the, not town planning, the land registry, they had the old maps and delineating every single plot and with the old code names and the numbers and whatnot. But at some point when they actually sat down to use GSI, is it called? But geographically...
Surveying, yes.
Yes, a geographical survey situation where they would actually upload everything into this big digital map so that you can delineate it according to GPS.
Yes.
They realized that there were problems on the map and they were wrong. It was wrongly depicted on the actual paper maps compared to what is real and how big the properties were, or the landmarks that they used as their, as their focal points to be able to come up with a specific map. That's a bit more micromanagement, but it has created havoc.
I'm just saying that, that was a small thing which has created havoc, which has expanded. We're not even talking about, planning a highway or things like this. So going back to Dali, what is actually going to happen?
Well, the only way that you can resolve this situation is with moving the specific industries. There is no other option because nobody
we hear that the state isn't going to move them.
No.
So, have we just reached...
Well, what the people that are involved, the group of affected residents are in constant contact with political parties and especially with us because we've been trying to have this situation be addressed for the last 10 years. We've been working together with them and we've been trying to help this grassroots movement, explaining to them how they should work. Because I think that this is something that most people don't realize with the Green Party. We don't want to take credit for everything that is happening. We want people to be enabled to search for their rights. We need people to be good citizens that are actually demanding their rights, and we'll be there every step of the way to help.
Yes.
But we need citizens to open their mouths and shout their protest and actually get all the political parties involved and interested in this situation.
That brings me to another, always, we have a conversation and one leads to something else. And when you have concerned citizens who say something, there are also quite a lot of ramifications for those citizens, which is why we are supposed to have the whistleblowers
that's a different situation.
Not really. It's linked. I think that there's a great reluctance. I know, Efi, I'm quite outspoken. I've got the microphone. Whatever I say is recorded and it goes out and it can stand there. There are certain issues that I will not discuss. Because there's a fear factor.
Yeah.
There is a definite fear factor, and I don't want to come home and find, there's a bomb under my car, or even find a bomb under the car here at Rick.
I understand what you're saying, and you're not wrong. What I'm trying to say, though, is that grassroots movements in any country are key in actually bringing around change. And if everybody is afraid of trying to bring about change, there will not be any change. Now, if somebody that is actually privy to information, delicate information, that person in particular cannot be outspoken about it, or it cannot be detected back to that person that they had actually leaked that information, that's when we're talking about whistleblowers.
Yes.
So whether that situation is because they've actually signed some document about secrecy, or whether it's just somebody that is really in not a position to actually deal with the bullying that is going to happen, you can call them whistleblowers. But you still need people that are going to be outspoken. And Cypriots need to be more outspoken about what's going on. And I'll tell you why, again, why am I insisting that this case is crazy? You have all these bigwigs that are being affected directly. Their families, their children, their backyards, they've spent millions. They've spent thousands of hundreds of euros to build their properties,
Yes.
and they can't go out and they can't open their
Ridiculous.
windows. So they feel this to the core. Now, what am I saying? Should we only be looking at these? No, I'm just saying that even in this case, where I have people that really do have the power to change things, still everything is going very slowly, and there doesn't seem to be the political will to deal with this. Even funnier still, the protest was last Saturday.
Yes.
There were MPs from most of the political parties in Parliament right now. Again, all these people are coming out and they're saying, with my presence here, representing my political party, I am saying that I agree with these people. We need these factories to be moved.
Yes.
And
Yes.
to be totally honest with you, it's everything. It's about moving them. It's about regulating them better. It's about making sure that they're
Yes.
actually using the filtration that you need in the pipelines that they have. It's making sure that they don't have any sewage or other waste that is being disposed of in an improper way, because at the end of the day, like we have mentioned many times, they only have like 22 people all over the island that are responsible for looking into stuff like this. And it's impossible for them to be looking at all the industries. So that's another
Absolutely.
reason that it's a good idea to move them all in the specific area of Bendagomo, because it means that you have a cluster and it's easier to be able to monitor.
Yes.
Because you
Yes.
know that there's a big cluster there, and you'll have permanent personnel that will be rotated so that you can ensure that, you know, they don't get too friendly and then not report what's going on. These are the kind of thoughts that should be put in, though, when you're doing your town planning. If this was an area that was earmarked to be for heavy industry, they should have looked into the wind and how it's being
Of course.
dispersed. They should have looked at the underground and whether that sort of soil is actually could permit such industrial, such heavy industry being utilized.
What is the next step?
Well, then, right now they're supposed to be trying to reach a compromise on the money that they will be given as compensation to be able to be moved to Bendagomo area. As far as I know, it's Bendagomo up to now. It might be some other area if that is too far or it's an improper distance from whatever activities they have. But if the government doesn't put down where it's possible to have heavy industry, they won't be able to plan. And they'll either leave the whole district of Nicosia without a heavy industrial area, or they'll end up having the same problem wherever they move, this industry or that industry. They have to put down a plan. They have to put down the parameters. They have to put down the environmental factors,
Yes.
because they are key. The geological factors, because that when you do that, when you come from an objective point of view, you will realize these are my options. I have 7 options. Of them, for other socio-economic reasons, only 3 are viable.
Yes.
You landlock them. You jot it down and you say, these are the industrial areas. I will not be permitting any building constructing close to that area. If need be, I will actually compensate people and buy that land off them, because there's, besides government property, every other property is allocated to some person or other. I will go through the process of me as a government buying off that land, so that I don't have the problem of, you know, every individual interest trying to build their own house or their own little hut or whatever it is that they want to build on these properties. And then you can start earmarking where you're going to put your roads, where you're going to put all the other facilities that you would need to have a heavy industrial area to work. You can put farming far away from them. Heavy industry doesn't go with farming.
Yes.
You've got a lot of pollutants that have to be dispersed before they're reaching the food chain. The villages.
It's incredible, I think, how a country like Singapore can be so organized,
Yes.
and we can be so
Disorganized.
disorganized.
Yeah, nobody
I-
appreciates that as a small island. If you don't earmark these from the beginning, you're going to have problems one way or
Yes.
another.
And the thing is that we've shown with COVID that we can actually do quite a lot of things
Yes.
quickly and recover, but somehow it's always that we're doing damage control afterwards. It might be that as well with the appointment now of the new ministers. I want to discuss that as well with
That's
you.
interesting.
Because, you know, I thought this was so good. We had two women, Natasa Bilidis as Energy Minister taking over from Yorgos Lakotribis, and Emily Yolidis taking over the Justice. And these, Emily in particular is the second woman since the foundation of the Republic in 1960 to be appointed.
To be appointed Minister of Justice.
Yes. So we've had her private issues, her relationships, the fact that her 7-year-old, I must say that made my eyes pop out as well. It's the 7-year-old.
Let's not repeat it, but the point
child,
is that they
getting
brought,
very high maintenance.
They brought private information that affected an underage child to to the public domain, and these are the kind of things.
Well, it's on a public.
Yes, it's crazy.
Website.
Look, to be honest with you, every court case is uploaded onto the internet for reasons of transparency, for reasons that the way that a trial was, the conclusions of a trial can help other lawyers with their own trials.
Yes.
But it should never be used as a way to shame a person, a political figure right now, and it should never be used in such a way where you can actually identify the person that you're talking about, especially when they're underage. And there should be more protection
Maybe there's going to be something from the GDPR.
But it already is. If you actually read through it, their underage people are mentioned only with the initials. But the point is, when you're saying that this is a court case that affects this specific person, and they only have one child, you know who you're talking about, and you know how.
Well, I mean, I read the document, and it's very clearly outlined who was representing her.
Might be. There's new guidelines from the Ombudsman for privacy issues, but it only comes from one point and onwards. So I'm not even sure.
My point is that there was a lot of.
There was a lot of private information.
There was a lot of vitriol. There was a lot of negativity. There was a lot of inference that she'd been appointed because she was having a relationship with somebody.
Anything that could have gone wrong with a political appointment, people tried to throw it at her. Now, if you want my private opinion, the fact that the new Minister of Justice is a person that had been working basically for a company that is probably involved in offering these golden visa passports to investors does not make me happy. But at the end of the day, I cannot close my eyes to the fact that there was a lot of sexism in everything that was pointed out concerning her personal person. And I appreciate the fact, I mean...
that's what I wanted to ask you. Was it about sexism, or was it about her actually...
You tell me, when have you ever had this kind of complaint towards ministers that were appointed and basically nobody even knew why they were appointed? And then I have this Oxford graduate lawyer that had built her own company from scrap with 2 other partners that were also starting basically as recent graduates without any personal money, without belonging to any really rich family, that to actually had supported in this creation of this office. And then this office is bought out and they are actually partners. It's not just, we sold because we went bankrupt or something. She's partners with a very prestigious British firm that try to identify potential firms to work with in countries where they have interests. So for me, there is a successful CV of a relatively young person, because at 45, 47, how old she is quite young for political people in Cyprus. So the fact that all this vitriol came out was really extremely sexist. First of all, the facts that had to do with her personal life. They used photos from her social media trying to present her as flamboyant and as... how do you call it? A flabberbrain, like a very pretentious and not very clever person. I mean, I have a CV that says otherwise, and somebody's making representations towards this person, basically using her sex as the reason why she can't be a good minister. And let me remind you that the second day they came out with Natasa Bilido shouldn't be a minister because she's pregnant right now, and she shouldn't have assumed that position. And it really doesn't, it makes your mind boggle. She's already a deputy minister of for shipping. Was she supposed to resign as minister because she's pregnant right now? Is she not capable of taking objective decisions because she's pregnant? Or are we talking about the fact that for a specific period of time she's going to, focus on her child, which actually coincides with summer and actually shouldn't be affecting any of her duties one way or another? We've seen politicians go through childbirth, and because of the very special way that we're working, we can actually bring our kids to work. We can actually maintain a very active political life, something that cannot be said for most women. And instead of taking our hats off and trying to make sure that more women are getting into politics because we can help, with the motherhood thing as well, and we can balance home with work, we're trying to say that they're incompetent.
This is of course a very valid point, and we've seen this with Jacinda, the Prime Minister of New Zealand. And I'm not comparing any
this is
woman
not about
to
a character.
her. This is not. I'm
the
referring
comparison
that you can actually work from home.
Yes.
You can actually keep up with what you're doing, and you can actually bring up your children. You can actually do a good job.
And if they don't, we'll be here to criticize it, no problem.
Yes.
My biggest problem, obviously, is the fact that nobody has come out to judge any of the ministers. There were 2 recent appointments of ministers only last November, and they've already made so many fumbles and problems for the government, and they have been criticized for their job not well done.
Yes.
But nobody has come out to criticize them on their personal life. And to be honest with you, there are a lot of scandals that are around about male politicians, but they always seem to be under the radar. Like, many people know about them, that we didn't have this vitriol. For Prodromo, there was a big scandal that came out that had to do with his personal relations when he was still an MP. And to be honest with you, it's a kind of case that should have gone to court, if you ask me. But it was just, it was kind of mentioned, and then it was withdrawn from public eye, which is how it should be. For personal reasons, that's how it should be, to be honest with you, because we need to protect the victims as well. In this particular case, everything is out there, and you've got a young person that is taking on this ministry for at least the next 3 years, and you're not allowing that person to do a job well done. And it's not fair.
Do you think it's part of what women in general have to
endure,
go through?
Yes,
they have to rise above it.
That's why first of all, it was sexist. There was criticism, and I don't disagree with criticism towards people, especially when they're taking up a position like that. But it was sexist in the way that they did it, and in the fact that they're not giving the same criticism towards male politicians. Nobody's asking a male politician, so why would you take up this position if you've got young children? Because it's just assumed that, the young children are the purview of the wife in the situation. Nobody's asking, why are you not married yet? To say, to try to indicate that you might not be all there, or you're not capable of dealing with the ministry because you're single.
It's not about criticizing the job performance.
Exactly.
I'm there for criticizing the job performance. I don't care whether it's a her or it's a him, if the job isn't being done properly.
Do you know how many times I've gone to evening protests or meetings, town meetings, going to villages or areas outside of Nicosia, because I also work, so most of my political job is being done in the afternoons or night time. Do you know how many times I've been asking, oh, poor you, where have you left your child? And when I tell them, my husband actually takes care of our child, and I'm extremely grateful for him, because he has no problem with me being so active, and he loves doing that part of being a family. And they're like, oh, well, poor him. Does rearing a child actually seem to be like the grunt work of family life? Is it not enough to be able to share?
I think it's nice to be able to.
Can we not share the week and then have afternoons that is one parent and afternoon that is the other, without actually them being divorced to be able to do that? We've had this conversation actually with many women, because we're constantly trying to get women involved and to get active. And I have to tell you that it does seem a bit easier to have divorced women to be more active, because the court, by giving dual custody to two parents, delineates particularly that half of the week goes to the other parent, and it actually means that they know that they have time to be able to do something for themselves as well. Otherwise, yes, our society still demands from women to take care of their children, to ensure that they are the taxi drivers that take them to the afternoon classes or sit with them to do homework.
I bring Jacinda as an example again, because she's mobilized everybody really in New Zealand. She's what I would call,
you mean, acting as a focal point?
Yes, and she's a
and
true
inspiring.
leader. Yes, very, very inspiring. I think we need our leaders
to be more inspiring.
To be more inspiring, not to need possibly 3 weeks notice to say, oh, someone's going to address us, and then, not do it in a friendly way. Get out your mobile phone, go on Facebook and talk to us. The same way that she manages to
let
do.
me mention
I find it so
Jacinda.
fresh, and it's in such a normal way.
Yes. Let me just say, I do try to follow international politics. I believe that we should be learning from good examples and from bad examples.
Yes.
So I do.
Yes, there is
constantly
what not to do too.
Yes. The whole point is that you should see how other people are dealing with various issues that will come up in politics. And I found it extremely interesting. Jacinda was on Stephen Colbert's show.
Yes.
And it's, American politics might seem more logical, but usually most of the politicians in other countries don't like the talk shows, the comedy talk shows, because if they go on the show, they're open to any sort of question. They have no idea what's going to come up, and they'll have to respond on their feet without a team of people telling them what to say, without pre-written,
Imagine if
without
Trump
everything.
goes to do that.
And I think that one of the reasons that Jacinda has managed to inspire so many people was obvious in the show, and in the fact that she actually invited Stephen Colbert to go to New Zealand, and he did go to take another to do another show with her, and she hosted him in her house, which was a regular house. It wasn't like this humongous mansion that you would expect from the prime minister of a country, of a quite rich country. It's not like it was a small, desolate whatever. They just did the barbie. They just put on barbecue. It wasn't anything fancy. They didn't do like a cocktail, whatever. They just showed that you can be, a politician. You can be the prime minister of a country, and you can still be just a person that enjoys the simple beauties of life as well. I think that that's the problem with politicians in Cyprus. It's very few of us that actually realize it's a small island. Today you might be minister for 5 years, and you've got people hanging on your lips, wanting to make sure that they're in your best favor, and they're making you seem like you're the star.
I have to be honest.
And then 5 years later, you're not minister anymore, and nobody talks to you. Why? Because if you're not a person that somebody wants to talk to you anyway, they won't do it now that you don't have the cap that is called minister. Everybody should be dealing with their life and feeling that at the end of the day, I need to have my private personal life as well. I shouldn't reach at some point where I am not the director of a whole ministry anymore, and I realize that I actually don't have any friends to go out and have a beer with. Or I let my family, I don't have a personal life because I didn't allow myself to have a personal life, and now suddenly I am nothing. The job shouldn't define the person. That's what I'm trying to say.
I think it'll also lead to a lot more transparency. I don't have the feeling that she's hiding, and I have the feeling that there's a lot of stuff that's being hidden here. There's a lot of maneuvering, wheeling and dealing, and
I trust people.
Not enough transparency.
I trust
Efi.
people that can have fun with the simple things of life as well.
Yes.
So if I'm connecting it back to your Lidi, the fact that you have a person that seems to be very well off personally is something that is difficult for us in Cyprus. We know that a lot of people have money, but the flaunting of money has always made us, be more apprehensive.
Yes.
So I will accept that criticism towards the new minister, but I have to ask, what about all the other very rich ministers that we've had? And has anybody actually checked into the finances? Because I know that they're going to check into the finances of Yolidi, because when when she's entering and she's already at a very high level stakes, it's going to become the fodder of media and of newsletters and whatever, what kind of money she already has, because this has to be posted.
Yes.
You have to put out a transparent account of how much you're worth right now and how much you're going to be worth when your tenure finishes. Are they getting into the same scrutiny when they're talking about MPs or they're talking about presidents? Because as far as I know, right now the legislation as it stands, there are no repercussions. Whether you give false information in this piece of paper that you're supposed to be submitting under oath, and there is no actual they don't maintain these documents on the internet of the presidents when you're talking about the ministers or the president, of the parliament if you're talking about MPs. The whole point is that you're supposed to have them online so that people can compare. Did they get richer when they finished their tenure? Did they get poorer? What happened in between? And if it was a falsified document, I mean, somebody has to be able to make an account of it. Accountability.
Transparency and accountability.
So simplicity is key, if you ask me, in political life.
Efi, we also need to go on to COVID and tourism restrictions. They're starting to be lifted. Today we saw further lifting that people can actually be part of the concerts can happen again, although there are some strange anomalies in the fact that they can only happen in amphitheaters.
No, it's opening now for closed areas as well.
Closed areas, but
the ambiguity is the fact that the government decided that they would allow events in closed areas, in closed sessions as well.
up
3
to
weeks ago.
150.
Yes, 3 weeks ago. But for some reason, they specifically said no to theatres opening and cinemas, which didn't make sense, because if you had said the maximum number of people that can be in a wedding setting, let's say, and it was fine, why isn't it okay to have the same number of persons in a cinema or in a theatre? So there was this whole debate going on, and then suddenly the government decided 2 days ago, I think, or maybe it was 5, that it would be okay to open theatres and cinemas. And a lot of the people that are working in the artistic world basically came out and said, you can't just change it 5 days earlier and then use it as a reason for not giving any compensation to these people. For theatres to be able to put up a show, they are actually going to need some time to prepare. There's a lot of marketing that goes on behind it. There's a lot of rehearsals. They have to do all the stuff that needs to be done to have a production be presented to the public. You need to give time for these kind of things. Now, I'm very devastated for the fact that it seems that the people that are in the arts have not received the remuneration that was promised to them. And this has been going on for 3 months now. It was a measly 300 euros per month. They were going to receive in total 900 euros. And the fact that they were continuing the restrictions in productions, we were demanding that it was there should be more money, because there's at least 4 months where these people will not be able to be paid and will not be able to receive any sort of
and with
income.
the social distancing, which is supposed to be in place, I mean, it's as if we don't, we don't
realize that it's still there
exist.
Anymore.
Yes, but it does exist, and we do hear about all these cases of repatriated people coming in, and they do have it. What's going to happen? I know there's a lot of pushing now for the UK to open so we can get the tourism back on track.
I think that we have to be prepared, and basically what we're saying is that after the 25th of July, when you're going to have a lot more tourists coming through, we should actually go back to the very strict regulation of how we as people perceive the protective situation, because we've become complacent, and most of us, myself included, which was I was very, very careful with the social distancing. We've got
Yes.
parents, we've got grandparents. We don't want to bring the virus back to
No.
our homes.
No.
And especially we come in contact with a lot of people. But I have realized that even myself are becoming complacent, and people, the old social norms are coming back with the hugging and even the kissing and the handshakes without the protective sanitizer or whatever. I think that after the 25th, especially when you're going to have a bigger influx of tourists, that we have to put it in the mind of people that we're returning back to that. We are actually going to be receiving people that are positive to COVID, and they're going to be having their
Right.
vacation in Cyprus.
And on top of that, they're going to be hosted at the government's expense to have their corona holiday here. I
Well-
mean, I don't want to minimize anybody who's got COVID, because there have been deaths all around the world.
No, but basically,
I mean, so many.
a lot
but
of people don't realize we've been doing this for many years now. The government has been subsidizing the tourist industry for many years. We've been subsidizing airplane tickets because we want to make sure that you're going to have planes coming to and from destinations that are supposed to be key towards keeping the vitality of the tourism.
What exactly does that mean?
It means
You've been
that our
subsidizing.
Yes, our government has been the CTO, which is now the
Deputy
Deputy Ministry of Tourism. They offer money to airplane companies to have reduced tickets for commuting people from whatever destinations are going to be the most popular towards coming into Cyprus. Travel agents are being
So we're buying
subsidized
our own-
for.
Our
We're buying
own
our tourism.
tourists.
Yes, but this is not something that has only been happening in Cyprus. This is something that is happening all over the place. Because the point is that you as a government are subsidizing, for instance, like, I don't know, a 20% of the cost that it would take for that particular tourist or family to come over to Cyprus. But then the money that is going to be dispensed by that person overcompensates the money, because the government is returning it. The money is receiving it in return from the VAT that is being utilized. So it is permissible under EU law, and it is a practice that everybody is doing. So trying to say that we are going to be subsidizing COVID.
No, I was actually referring if somebody becomes ill.
Yes.
What exactly is going to happen? The person is going to be hospitalized,
Yes,
and their
and
family is going to be put up in a hotel, paid with all expenses paid, and room service and the rest.
Well, that's not exactly what is happening. If they
There
are...
been some conflicting reports.
Yes. Okay, first of all, with the NHS that we have now, it basically means that any European citizen that comes to Cyprus is allowed to have the same health treatment that they would have had in their own country. And that is to be compensated by the country of origin. So since most of our tourism is basically based in Europe, there isn't really a big issue about the health bill. Now, and there is a thing about the hosting in hotels and whatnot.
Yes.
But to be honest with you, as far as I understand, there is some sort of remuneration happening. Like, for instance, there was the money that they were going to be offering towards the hotel, and that is going to be transferred back. There is a whole situation on how they're going to deal with it. But again, the idea is that we need to try to continue to be a destination and not fall off the map of the tourist agencies, of the travel agencies.
Are the people paying? Are the people actually paying for this service? Is it something coming from government taxes?
Yes, it is going to be subsidized. The interesting thing is that the government has actually come out with a tender for that, and they've received these services, the potential services, at a much lower rate than normally. So, look, if we want to see if it's going to work or not, it will depend on what kind of income came through during this period. And we have to remember that everything is interconnected. And that's why I'm trying to explain that many times you will see a subsidy that will be indirectly compensated through the other various taxes that are going to happen. If we don't get people to come to Protarasa, Yana, Palimos, or Paphos during this period, a lot of other businesses are going to go bankrupt as well. So the idea is that if we maintain the low rate of COVID, if we maintain a bigger influx
Yes.
of people, and if we safeguard the local population, which is again something that you need to put in the equation.
Yes, of
If
course.
I'm protecting the local or most of the tourists that are coming in Cyprus by being very vigilant and diligent in my COVID screening, and I am offering an alternative to these people so that if they actually do get stuck on the islands because unwillingly or unknowingly they
Yes.
contracted COVID-19, they should be in a way, safe in the idea that I'm actually going to be able to, relax and enjoy my vacation one way or another. So they will be prepared to take the risk, and we are going to be minimizing the risk towards the general population, and we won't have the influx and taxation of our health system. So it is a win-win.
Win-win. What about the focus on the local population? There have also been reports that there are just
it
simply
hasn't
not
happened.
enough of us. But when I see the prices,
No, it's
186 euros a night,
It's crazy.
well, I don't know how many other people are in a position. I'm definitely not to pay that amount of money.
You know what I don't understand? If this was the money that other people, tourists that are coming from other countries, if that was the amount of money that they were paying for hotels, I would realize, I would say, okay, you
It's
can get 186 and you won't get that from me. Kudos to you. Bring in
Yes.
your foreigner. But at the end of
Exactly.
the day, if you look at the money that is being paid by people that are booking from abroad, it's a very different price list.
And why is that? Why
I
are
have no
locals being
idea.
penalized? It's not a new thing.
Yes, I have
Efi.
no idea, and especially the fact that they are being subsidized to travel to Cyprus anyway, and you're offering even your services even cheaper. It doesn't make sense. I mean, I've never been able to manage.
So there's
to
no
understand
sort
it.
of subsidy for locals to be able to go and have a holiday, because there's so many
There
who
is.
really don't want to travel.
There is a there was a scheme supposedly for people that are pensioners, to be able to offer them some sort of vacation as well. So there are destinations that are they came out with a tender again, I think, and it's a low rate for people that belong to specific categories from an
Low
age
is
over.
very
Yes, it's very
what do you call
subjective.
it? Subjective.
But the idea is that you are trying to subsidize vacation for
And
people of a certain age and over.
okay, that's for older people. What
Yes,
about
and
the
there
younger
was
ones
2
with
years ago.
families?
2 years ago, there was a subsidy for people that were on the a low-income scheme, so that
Yes.
they could actually spend some, quality time, because usually you don't have money for luxuries like this.
No.
But everybody should have some time to be able to collect their thoughts and,
Right.
refuel batteries or whatever.
Yes, yes.
Look, at the end of the day, a lot of the trades unions and a lot of the NGOs that are representing a big number of people, they try to bargain prices for their members, and then
Yes.
usually the companies that are offering these services, they will allocate like a specific percentage of their services towards these groups as a part of their own social responsibility as companies as well. It isn't working as well as it could, but to be honest, there is a give and take situation in this,
Yes.
and there has to be a volunteer process in them offering it. You can't go to a private company and demand that they always offer you this or that.
No. Coming on to the last subject as I really wanted to cover today, and that was university fees.
In private universities in Cyprus and the UK.
And in the UK, it seems that we've lost the home fee
As every other European.
status.
Well, let me start by saying that the fact that we are...
Maybe you'd like to just explain what
Yes,
all
okay.
was.
Well, with Brexit happening, we're not going to be able to have the same benefits that any UK citizen would have in going to university.
No.
So, because the way that it goes was, if you're a European citizen, you're allowed whatever the local citizen was allowed too. So if Germany is allowing free education. So if you want to go study in Germany,
Yes.
you just have to go through the same screening process as any German citizen would, and you're allowed free education.
Yes.
The same was offered for Edinburgh, for Scotland, to be
Yes.
honest with you, in the UK. This is not going to be available now, and the prices, there were lower prices offered towards European students in most of the UK universities. This is not going to be thus with Brexit happening. Now, we've already seen a big wave of Cypriots going towards other universities. And Holland, the Netherlands, have been
Yes.
especially popular because they actually offer a lot of their first degree programs in English as well, and not just master degrees or doctorates.
No.
And to be honest with you, the Cyprus universities, the 3 public Cyprus universities, are trying to ride that wave as well. The problem isn't just with Cypriot students, it's about all European students. So they're trying to push this legislation through right now, where they will be able to offer English courses in their graduate degree level as well.
Yes.
So the idea is that the market is opening up, and you're seeing a lot of European countries trying to offer, in very prestigious universities I might add, they're starting to try to add the English language as a feasible situation. I don't think there is a problem with how we're dealing with the UK in general, because the UK has decided to do the Brexit. The UK has been
It's as if
not
we're in
agreeing.
denial that it's happening.
Yes, it's the UK that hasn't been agreeing on a Brexit strategy and a Brexit scheme, and this was supposed to be a part of that. Now, the fact that we are clamoring right now towards the UK and trying to receive some sort of special treatment is actually in opposition to what all the European countries were saying. The idea was that all European countries would maintain a unified ground on how
Yes.
they're going to deal with it, and that you shouldn't try to maintain towards your citizens
Are we going to be ostracized and laughed at again?
I
that?
don't know. I don't know. It's very interesting because there is a dynamic towards Brexit, and we're seeing it unfold right now in front of us. And Corona didn't really help at all in the process, because losing like 4 months of negotiations towards having some sort of agreement before Brexit is not helping anybody, least of all the UK. On the other hand, I think that it would have made more sense if we had people trying to explore the options in other European countries. I know that in the
It's not
the Nordic
easy in
No.
in the Netherlands, for example.
it's not easy to get in, because
No.
there are specific
So a lot
positions to
of
be able. But the Nordic countries are offering English programs as well.
Sweden,
yes, all
Denmark,
3.
even
Well,
Hungary.
It's actually Norway isn't part of the EU, but we do have agreements with them because
Yes.
of the special relationship that they have with the EU. I think that at the end of the day, the options are not really opening up, and if you were prepared to give an amount of money for your child to study in the UK, you can look at your other options as well towards this. I don't think that it's healthy that we're just trying to do business as usual right now with the UK as things are unfolding. It's going to be quite crazy, and I know that it's easier to go with the situation that you know, but at the end of the day, we have to look at our other options as well. Now, we have been criticizing the government for leaving this, as many other things, during to the last
Always
minute.
to the last minute.
Because this was something that was supposed to be negotiated with the other EU countries as well, and we stayed back. We didn't try to put this as one of the focus things within the Brexit negotiations, or at least it wasn't being communicated to us in
Yes.
Cyprus that this was something that was high on our priorities. In the same way that it's high on our priorities that we have a lot of Cypriot citizens that are in the UK as permanent residents, that were utilizing their EU status to be able to have jobs and livelihoods there. And it's not exactly clear what is going to be happening with all the EU citizens that are right now in the UK. And for me, that's even more frustrating than the fact that you're going to have to look a bit further towards furthering the education, because there are options. I mean, for instance, nobody's discussing Australia as an option when they have extremely high qualified universities. Nobody's looking towards Asia, which is the pinnacle of the economy for the next 50 years and where most of the development is going to be happening, with extremely prestigious universities that are offering first degrees in English. We should get out of the box that basically we have enclosed ourselves and start looking at the options that are actually going to be beneficial towards the citizens of this country for the next 30, 40 years. We need new business partners. We need new markets. We need new relationships.
It's a whole area which hasn't, I've always said, hasn't been explored sufficiently. We've brought in a lot of sham students. This has to stop. I think that they've finally realized that that's has to stop.
I'm not sure that they finally realized, because they're very happy to have colleges and supposed universities influxing people that have no intention of actually studying.
Well, they're not even there. Most of them are out on the construction sites.
Yes, and they're really the good name of the universities and of higher education in Cyprus is being pushed through the mud. Now, let me reiterate, because we have to make this distinction. The fact that you have people from third countries, as in third countries towards the EU, I'm not talking about the economic status, just to not be bullied. I don't believe in third countries in their economic status. But I'm talking about non-EU member countries.
That's a much better way of phrasing
it. So non-EU country students that are coming to Cyprus to study and are trying to work their way through and are doing their lessons in the afternoon or at night time is something very credible. And a lot of us Cypriots have survived and managed to study in previous decades because of this possibility, because of the possibility of people looking at your actual work and not the fact that you're sitting in a chair for a specific period of time. And this is not what we're talking about. We are talking about sham colleges and universities that have no intention of actually offering these lessons towards these people, and probably shouldn't have even been accredited towards this. And that's where the conflict starts, and that's where the problem is. You shouldn't accredit universities such to be able to work like that, and if they're not accredited, they shouldn't be operating, because we have non-accredited universities that do operate and do take money from people supposedly to give them a degree, and then they realize that basically it's not worth the piece of paper that it was printed on. Those are the kind of issues that we need to deal with. But it also talks to our inherent racism, the fact that you have extremely prestigious universities in India, for instance, or in any of the other Asian countries where we are on the receiving end of financial migrants, and we seem to not realize that in many of these countries you do have extreme poverty as well as extreme richness. And
I think it has got the most number of billionaires,
and it's a huge market
worldwide.
that we've been trying to have better contact with. I don't understand why we're not trying to facilitate our new high school graduates towards going to such countries, to be able to bring back the know-how, to work as bridges towards all this communication. The Commonwealth. We are part of the Commonwealth, whether we liked it or not. I mean, we're there because we used to be a British colony, but that creates a huge network of countries which we could have been facilitating, which we could have been working on constructing good relationships and ties, and offering education to the residents, to the citizens of these countries, like an exchange of knowledge would be very, very highly appreciated in the market.
Of course, and you don't have to look far. You don't need to reinvent the wheel. You just need to look at Canada and see how they've made exceptional,
which is a very viable destination for if you're looking for English-speaking universities. And we're already
made it into quite an industry. The fact that their education is something that brings in a lot of economic viability for our country.
Yesterday, in another unrelated subject, it was pointed out to us that with the withdrawal of the UK from the EU, basically the only countries that are remaining with what we call Commonwealth Justice, as it's called, is us and Malta within the EU. So with Brexit happening, it seems that there is a big interest from Canadian companies to have presence in an EU country, and it's easier for them to come, common law, not Commonwealth, common law as it's called.
Yes.
And it seems that it's much easier for them to move to countries that are much more used to dealings in English and that actually have the same justice system, which makes it a bit more familiar towards companies that would like to do that. These are the kind of strategies that we should be having, trying to bring in knowledge, and when our children are trying to gain knowledge, to see what the potential future cooperation could be.
If you tune into Parliament, because we hear it.
Yes. You mean the plenary meeting?
Yeah. It goes around and around and around, and this one says this one, this one says this one. And
they don't ever end up
no, it doesn't end up with something really positive. Maybe you've got, closed-door meetings. I hope to heaven that there's some closed-door meetings that we're not privy to.
No, I think that all meetings should be open, in the same way that you have...
Well, heaven help us if that's how we're going forward. That's why we're moving at a snail's pace.
But how will they change? If they're not exposed to the public, if you don't expose with transparency and with shedding light on what goes on behind closed doors, how are we going to make things better? People shouldn't be happy by electing people that are basically can't even string a sentence together. They shouldn't be happy with people that don't understand what is being presented to them, so that they can make...
or they don't have enough time to read the papers that they've been told to read.
And it becomes extremely obvious that they've come unprepared to the meetings.
What are we paying them for?
Well, obviously, some believe that they're being paid because of their beautiful looks. And I'm not saying it in a sexist way. I'm just saying that that's basically the only thing they bring in Parliament. Themselves, wearing nice clothes and looking nice.
Yes.
But that's not what I want from an MP. I want that person to be able to use their brain. I'm electing them to represent me and to figure out what the pros and cons are of whatever it is that is being presented in front of them, to be able to make a justified and a well-balanced decision. I don't want somebody that thinks that now that I've been elected for the next 5 years, it's my job to go to TV productions and open shops with ribbons, or get my face plastered all over magazines and whatnot. That's not the purpose of an MP.
I hold the public also accountable, because we're the ones who put parliamentarians there. So we need to vote next time there's a vote. One has to vote. You've got to go up and you've got to hold people accountable. And
I'm also trying to get people that are foreign speakers, that are not Greek speakers.
Yes.
They are extremely important to politics in Cyprus. They have the right to vote, if not for national elections as well, they definitely have the right to vote for local elections. And right now we're preparing to fight for the right of British citizens that are permanent residents in Cyprus to be able to continue voting in local elections as they were allowed under the EU status. And if we manage to push that through, we'll be able to do it for other permanent residents from non-EU countries as well, because local politics affects you daily. It affects how your house is going to be built. It affects the schools where your children are going to be going. You need to be involved so that you can actually be taken into account when the time comes. There is too much there's too much development and unfolding of policies that do not take into account that we have a big percentage of our population that are not Greek speakers, and we need to be able to correspond to their needs as well. So I'm really pleading with people to demand their rights, register to vote, vote for whoever your heart desires, or if you really hate every single person on that ballot, just put in your white ballot, but be there. Present yourselves, show that you want to be active, because then you have leverage. And at the end of the day, I think that that's what everybody needs to realize. We all have leverage, whether it's big or strong. And the people, for instance, we started with the situation in Dali and Konstantinou and Eleni's area. The people in that area realize that there is value in numbers. Individually, they won't be able to leverage as much.
No, it's very
But when
hard.
you manage to get 300 people in the direct sun of Cyprus to demonstrate, to close down the Limassol-Nicosia highway for 5 minutes. It wasn't too much, but we closed down the highway. We got it into the media. We got people to care again. We got new meetings and speculation on how exactly they can move through with it. It's important. So we need people to be active for the stuff that they love and they care.
Just because you said highway,
yes,
that was horrendous on Sunday.
Oh God, yes.
That was horrendous. Do you know, after 5 hours, because I was in the highway.
You were you returning to Nicosia?
With the puppy. And after 4.5 hours, I finally got to the place where, it's open now. And what was there? Not one policeman, one big bus on the right-hand side of the highway with nothing else. And I thought, but I've read, I mean, because obviously Saturn had so long to hear about what had happened, that the hay had
basically there was an accident and haystacks were spilled all over the highway.
But when that had been cleared, why was there still
to be honest
ongoing
with you,
traffic jam that hadn't been opened?
To be honest with you, because I actually travelled that road, 6 o'clock in the afternoon we started from Limassol to come to Nicosia, and there was no traffic whatsoever. And we actually had police assistance when we were leaving Limassol because they were redirecting us from the old road because it was still closed, the highway where the haystacks had fallen.
Yes.
I'm not even sure if they had removed them or not because we didn't go close to them. We were rediverted to the old road. We came through. It only took me like an hour and 15 minutes, and I was wondering what happened. Like, was it that a lot of people decided to take the trip like from 7 o'clock and after because of the...
No,
I don't know.
I started out at 5 o'clock and I didn't get home until about 10.
Which is very strange.
Horrendous.
Very, very strange. I think at the end of the day, managing traffic is a problem in general, and it has to do with the roadworks as they are. I mean, roadworks and with... the road network, I should say properly. I mean, roadworks are something that are supposedly...
we're going to discuss that next month with the roadworks, especially.
But to be totally honest with you, it will never stop as long as every child that becomes a grown-up at 18 has to get their own car because there is no public transport system. And as long as you don't have a system where people can carpool and be able to, at least during the weekdays when you're talking about regular hours and regular office hours and stuff like that, to be able to travel alternatively towards home. Like I'm really trying to use my bicycle as much as possible, even under these conditions. By taking an extra T-shirt with me, it's doable. We don't really have that big of a distance to commute when we're going to work and coming back. I think the biggest problem is actually in the afternoon, where you have all the parents trying to commute their kids to afternoon classes as well, plus the regular traffic, plus people getting off work, and it really becomes chaotic. Or very early in the morning, where again you have parents taking kids to school.
I must say the traffic's been much better since the schools are closed, so that was good.
I don't know. Maybe people realize that there are benefits to co-traveling with other people as well, and instead of having one individual in each car, actually utilizing.
I'm for public transport.
Well,
I believe that
really looking forward.
The way to go.
I'm looking forward to seeing the new buses that are arriving, because there is going to be a new tender, or at least there should be a new tender. I mean, it seems that everything's a bit in the air.
Yes.
We are really looking forward to seeing a better network, and extremely looking forward to seeing bus stops, because right now people are just waiting under the pouring rain or the extreme hot sun with no sort of roof, no cover whatsoever.
And not only that, I'm going to also make a post about that on social media. There's not even a bus number.
No,
Efi,
nothing. It's just
how do you know? I said to my daughter, how do you know that that's the bus there? She said, because online. I know, we all know.
No, they have an application on mobiles, which is quite okay. But the problem is that you've got somebody that wants to use the public transport, and it's not very easy when you open the application, and basically it says that the bus is supposed to pass every 4 to 5 minutes or every hour, depending on where you're going to be utilizing it. You still need to go to the center of whatever city it is you're in, and then beam back to wherever you want to go, because they don't have the cross.
No, it's ridiculous. I'm sorry.
And you really can't rely on the timetables. Because if it was a reliable timetable like every single other country in the world, you would be able to plan where you get off and where you take the other bus to be able to make the junctions and make the changes that will take you to wherever your destination is within a logical period of time.
Yes.
If it takes less time for me to get there by using my personal car, and if I've got multiple meetings, I am preferring the car or the bicycle
Yes.
or whatever instead of the bus. So you need to make sure that the bus is preferable, that public transport is preferable to people using their individual cars. If not for anything else, to at least keep the roads clear and to keep our health clearer, because we won't have that much pollution being pumped out of the gas tanks of our cars.
I love talking to you.
I love talking to you too, and it takes. I could go on for hours, as a good politician should. So
Thank you so
make me
much.
stop.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much
we'll
for
talk
having
again
me.
Next month, or you're on holiday?
No, I'm available.
You're here. All right, so let's talk next month. Thank you all who've been part of the conversation on Facebook Live. We had lots of people there as well. And we're going
can I just make
Yes.
a quick, I've forgotten to make an announcement. We've been trying to discuss about high-rise buildings, especially in Nicosia, because it seems that because there is no strategy and the municipality of Nicosia is actually town planning as well, they've been really considering offering permits for high-rise buildings in areas that are already deemed special character. So like close to the area.
I discussed that with Dimis.
Yes. And there is actually going to be a demonstration tomorrow at 6 o'clock in the afternoon across the archaeological museum in front of the municipal theatre of Nicosia, because the municipal council of Nicosia is meeting there now
So
during
it's starting
coronavirus. No, they have a meeting at 6 o'clock, the municipality of Nicosia, and they are going to be discussing the possibility of offering a permit for a high-rise building right next to the town planning buildings behind them. It's Kinira Street. It's very close to, it's in the special character area, as it's called. It's all about sandstone housing, and it's basically, there are a few more modern buildings, but they are low level, they're not very high-rise buildings, and it just doesn't correspond to the character that that area is supposed to be maintaining. So we are going to be demonstrating tomorrow with other organizations and NGOs because we want our town planning to actually look into the reason why they gave a special character delineation in that area, and they shouldn't be offering high-rise buildings there specifically. And I will reiterate that the problem isn't high-rise buildings themselves, it's the positioning,
of course,
and it's the parallel problems, the problems that will come up, like for instance when you're doing it next to the seaside and stuff like that. And we're not against high-rise buildings. They actually might be able to help with the problem of population density and the public communication that we were talking about before, as long as I do it correctly.
Thank you so much once again.
Thank you for having me.
Wonderful. And we're going to conclude today's program with Dvorak. We pick up in the third movement of the Serenade for Strings with the English String Orchestra.
And goodbye to our Facebook friends. It was really lovely
Bye-bye to everybody.
being with you.
Wonderful to have you. Thank you.
Cheers.